Thanks for joining us for another episode of Tea and Trails. Got my tea, the biggest mug around, size of my head. Excellent size mugs. 2 mugs? I got 2 mugs. Thanks to all our partners for supporting us and our community too. Pop over to Patreon and check out some great deals from Veloforte, Silver, Active Root, the Centurion Running Store, Protein Rebels, and sportshoes.com. I'm having to start to take a breath now between all of that. There's so many people.
Yeah.
Hopefully these deals help take some of the sting out of what can be a very expensive sport. It doesn't need to be, but it does seem to rack up, especially when you choose to do big races that have a big kit list. Mentioning no races. Last but not least, thanks to all our patrons who dig deep every month and literally keep the lights hot and the mics on. Though, Gary, I don't actually have the lights on today because it's a beautiful day and there is definitely spring in the air.
I was out with my T-shirt only today on my run.
Guns were out with the comments. Woohoo!
Oh, yeah, everyone was stopping in the trails. They said, do you work out, Gary? Do you go down the gym? That was the comments. But yeah, it was really nice, actually. I checked the forecast and I was like, feels like 5. I thought, ooh.
Oh, I would never go in a T-shirt unless it was feels like 20.
But no, it was very good. It was a very lovely run with Rex before we jumped on the mics. But yeah.
Welcome to episode 11 of Tea and Trails, the best running podcast around. This week, we have a brew with the coaches, a chat with Ellis Brand, and my mum and Gary Twitter on for ages about their running and training. Enjoy!
Gary, before I came online, I had a quick look at your Strava because I always like to preempt in case there's been drama and I need to prepare myself. You are Mr. Consistency.
I saw that. My little bars are all lined up.
Oh, it's nothing I love more than when those Strava bars are high and they're in a line. Yes. Tell me all.
Yeah, well, so we did the most exciting, lots of easy running with Rex. That's the fundamental part of the week. But the exciting bits are a Bob going round leg 1 recce with a friend. Adam and Robbo. Adam is planning an attempt, I think, in September. I hope he gets better weather than we did. But my first attempt, but yeah, we had insane wind. And luckily, I wouldn't have went out on the ridges if it was an exposed leg of the Bob, for example. But leg 1, skidor is kind of like a big wide open top. There's nothing too dramatic going on there. And then you drop down into the boggy section, which is really sheltered. So that wasn't a problem. But yeah, so when we talked about sock choice and stuff for Bob Graham, I'd like to retract my statement. Maybe some knee-length Dexcel socks would be very good because, wow, it was super boggy. Really, really. I've never seen, like the water that must have passed through there had carved not new paths, but they'd modified the paths and the trails. There's not really much of a trail anyway. Anyone who's been on that part of the Bog Graham round, a path is a stretch of the imagination. But and then went up to Blencathra. We didn't do Hallsfeld Ridge because none of us are that happy on it, and Adam isn't going to do that on his Bob. So we went down Doddick, and wow, it was super windy on there too. So yeah, glad to get down. Everybody safe and sound from the workout point of view. I did the 20-20-20, and I did have a few people reach out actually and ask what that is. Now, I'm an uncoached athlete. I just follow a standard Garmin Connect training plan. I think it's the advanced marathon training plan. Only advanced for me.
I didn't say anything.
I saw your face.
Did you see me? I went, no, don't say anything.
But it's quite a simple format. It's 20 minutes easy, 20 minutes moderate, maybe marathon pace, and then
I sort of call it like steady, like a steady. You feel good, but just slightly uncomfortable, but good.
We were chatting. Rob and I were chatting. Not a full conversation, but we could get a few sentences out. And then obviously your threshold is
the sort of pace you run past people if there's loads of people and you're like, look good, let's look good, Gary. Let's move a little faster.
Yeah. No, it's good. And I see 20-20-20. It could be, depending on your speed. Yeah. It could be, you could break it down, say 3 mile, 3 mile, 3 mile. We, just so we weren't kind of going to run over a road and risk getting run over. I think one split was a 21 minutes and a 22 minutes and then a 20 minutes at the end, just to, to keep things safe. We don't want to be doing anything stupid on the streets, but yeah, just a standard Garmin training plan. And I did a hilly fartlek. I couldn't face the workout that I should have done. I can't remember what it was now. So I chose, I think it was supposed to be just 2 times 10 minutes up hills, but I don't really have that. So I did this hilly fartlek, but there was about 20 minutes in total of effort within that session. done my strength and conditioning, which is good. I need to modify the days I'm doing it because I know you should do your lift heavy after you've done your workout. So you're actually concentrating more on your running. But when I do my quality session in the evening, I just can't get down the gym after that. So the plan is maybe say Monday morning, go to the gym, and then that gives me quite a chunk of recovery for a Tuesday evening workout. So I've just got to tweak that about. It's not quite working just yet. But yeah, I felt like a bit of a bad back. So I hit the foam roller on Sunday night. We watched Wakanda Forever on Disney as a family. It was nice. And I think
Never even. What is that?
Oh, it's the Black Panther. It's the latest Black Panther movie, the Marvel.
I don't even know what Black Panther is.
My goodness.
Is this terrible?
It was a good film, and I think I foam rolled my back for about 3 hours. So.
Oh my God, Gary! If I do like 3 minutes on the foam roller, I'm like done for the month.
I know, I get in every little nook and cranny. But yeah, feeling really good again. And I've been tracking my Garmin heart rate variability. And I'd be interested your results because we mentioned last week about this app that you're using. And yeah, it's the green bars are getting higher and higher and higher. Quite a few things have changed in my life as far as nutrition. We've been really lucky to be supported by Vela 40, sent some bits and bobs out, and Protein Rebel. Obviously, after Siobhan's chat, I've upped my vitamin D and B. Because we've been sent a lot more nutrition, I am fueling before, during, and then recovering much better than I would normally. So I'm not snacking in the evening, which is good. Normally, if I was up past 10 o'clock, like it was danger zone.
Who's up past 10 o'clock? Terrible.
So I'm not too sure if it's all these, the vitamin D, the better fuel, the collagen, if it's all these little tiny 1%.
Mindfulness maybe a little bit as well.
But I think after Thursday's session, I really enjoyed Thursday's session. I just came away and I just thought, wow, this is like, I forgot what it felt like to feel okay. I'd been under the weather since mid to late November, so it'd been a hell of a long time. So it was nice. I felt really uplifted after that. And yeah, I've been trying out the guys from Innovate. It looks like this is total coincidence. I'm in my Innovate top 2, but I'm trying out these guys, the brand spanking, the brand shiny spanking. You have to go to YouTube for this one. It's the Trailfly G270. So yeah, it's their new shoe, and here is their old shoe. So fundamentally, not a lot in it. I'd say design changes a bit around the heel cup is different, and around the toe box a bit different. They've got that kind of more the material on the old one. Size wise, fits about the same. I'd have to say I've not done much running in them, but the new one, the toe box feels a little bit more roomy, but I think that's because they haven't got any of this rubberized material to lock your toe in a bit, so it's got a bit more give. Weight-wise, it's supposed to be 270 grams, and this is a UK 6.5, and they're coming in at 234. So if you wanted to go into the deep dive for that, and yet the soles are exactly the same. Nothing fundamentally changed. My initial impressions, which is good. I mentioned before we start recording, you don't want anything radically different on a shoe that you love so much. And the old G270, bloody hell, I probably bought 4 pairs of those. So I'm a big fan of that shoe. And my initial, and also the tongue. Sorry, the tongue, I forgot to say it. A bit more padding on the tongue. So for a longer day out, maybe that's a bit more comfortable on the top of your foot. So yeah, pretty pleased so far. Looking for. I thought I'd try and keep them clean before I did the pod. And Lent is Pancake Day today. Obviously, the show goes out on Friday, but it's Tuesday as we record, and I'm just thinking about what I'm going to give up for Lent. And I think, for me at least, it's going to be treats. Now, as a runner, that's tricky because even though you're taking, gels and stuff like that during the race or training, it's still treats. So if anyone sees me chugging on
only you would call a gel a treat.
Oh yeah, true. So yeah, if anyone sees me eating some junk when I'm out running, then don't call me out. That's fine. It's when I'm maybe out for a meal with a family or something like that. I don't want to be tucking into some tiramisu. That's what I'm going to avoid that for the 40 days, 40 nights. So yeah, I feel, and like you said about my bars, I think my elevation was over 12,000 feet. So
you're topping that Strava leaderboard yet?
No way.
That's my one aim. That's just my one aim in life right now, is to try and...
We'll get to that later, but spoiler alert, the leader of the elevation was over 20,000 feet. know.
Not quite there with my 3,000. Try again this week, Eddie.
Hey, it'll be back. It'll be back. Yeah, so I had a good week. What about you?
Yeah, we're getting there. We are getting there. So last week, I still am calling them week, what was it? Week 4, week 5, week 4. I can't remember, Gary. Anyway, yes, I had it's nothing to shout home about, but a couple of bikes, 5 little runs. The runs now are starting to come back into my daily routine, which is great. I'm just going out running. I'm not thinking, oh my god, my legs, oh my god, my knee. So, and I always notice that in people's plans as well, as when they write nothing to report. Didn't think about it. Didn't think about my body. So today I didn't think about my body for the whole run. I didn't think about my knee. I didn't think about my tendons in my feet. The only thing I'm really suffering still is my wrists and my arms.
Oh my goodness me.
So I had some treatment on them. Oh my God. You think when you have a sports massage and they go into like your calf or your hamstring and you're like, oh, well, I mean, try it in your arm. Oh my.
No massage gun can do that, can it?
No massage can. Anyway, they've been quite bad since then. And then I went for a ski tour. So yesterday I did my first 2 sessions in a day. And I ran the dogs in the morning and then I did a ski tour in the straight away afterwards. That's again another big step up. I have the energy to like do a run, have a quick cup of tea and a snack, and then get my skis. Good. And because I have to all in when the kids are at school. And so I did a ski tour. I started off and I was like, I'm not sure. Use your arms quite a lot when it's steep, you just digging the poles in. And they didn't hurt that much when I was doing a little bit. And then today they're sore. So God, I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, I got a bit more treatment for them. Can't really afford the time or the money to go to the spa like the chiropractor suggested. So I've been making myself my own personal spa up in the kids' bathroom. And I didn't have any Epsom salts, but I Googled it and it said you could use bicarbonate of soda, which to us out here is quite expensive when you buy it. Okay. I don't think the French use it very much. Bryn's imported it from somewhere because it's a British brand. So I just stole it and took it upstairs and I used the whole pot. Anyway, I had the bath as hot as I could. Oh my gosh. Me, all the Barbie dolls and the My Little Ponies that still have to have their hair done in the bath.
Oh God, I remember those.
I was like, is this the spa treatment he thought? Anyway, I did feel so much better afterwards. So I have not required. I've ordered some Epsom salts and I'm going to do that every other sort of day. It really helps anybody who is trying to recover or has got a bit of an injury because it just warmed my body so much. And then once I got out, put my jammies on, bliss, about 6:30 at night. Perfect time to put jammies on. And then I got my Theragun in my thighs and in my calves like you for about an hour and a half probably. So that's been really helping. That's been good. I'm going to carry on doing that. Kids are back at school for their rests now after 2 weeks of skiing.
Mine are off. They've swapped. I've got 2 kids at home. Yeah. Oh, they're a bit older. They're good.
They're a bit older. They don't keep asking to come on the podcast and demanding snacks and stuff. Yeah, they've gone back to school for their rest now because they were absolutely exhausted. The little one skied. We have this thing called the Porte du Soleil Tour, where you literally ski like the whole way round the resort, which I think is it's 600 kilometers worth of piste. So she didn't ski, but it's about 80k, I think. She skied that at the end of the holidays. They were like a little treat. I was like, is that a treat? You giving me back my children? Absolutely exhausted. And then we send them into school. Good luck, teachers. But they've gone into school, as you said, it's Pancake Day. So in France, they have Mardi Gras, which they have these carnivals, and they've gone into school in fancy dress and then they parade through the town, the school, in this fancy dress. And the teacher was dressed as one teacher was dressed, you'd have loved this, as the Kinder Egg. You know, the one where you open where you get, she was just like this massive, they take it
side.
Yeah, she was inside. She was a treat. One was a bunny. They take it and we don't really have access to costumes. So the kids kind of have to make their own costumes, but Evie went as a vampire, obviously, and as you do, and Rory went as Top Gun. Rory's never seen Top Gun. So I was like, I'm not sure where this. Anyway, he just put on a white t-shirt and sunglasses.
So maybe it is.
Yeah, gelled his hair up and got all the Nerf guns he owns and like used my running belt and attached all the guns in there. And then he just kept going, Top Gun. I was
Perfect.
I dropped off at school, all the tourists at the bus stop opposite the school waiting to try and go skiing with all these kids appearing dressed totally randomly. This massive bunny as the teacher like hopped into school. It's great. I love it. Trying to get the idea of Lent. I'm not sure how that relates to Lent. Anyway, for Lent, I am going to give up Diet Cokes because I love a Diet Coke. It has no goodness. In fact, I read that it's actually really bad for you. The chemicals in it, as a perimenopausal woman, it's really bad for you as well.
Oh, interesting.
There's nothing good in it apart from that it gives me joy.
You should just drink the full fat stuff, shouldn't you? I think if there's no goodness in any of it, but I think
there's no goodness in anything. It's a terrible company. It's such a waste. It's so bad for the environment. So I'm using Lent to wean myself off drinking them. As ever, a little bit every now and then, but I really don't need 5 cans.
Shot of it.
Not 5 cans a day, 5 cans a week. So I'm going to, 40 days, 40 nights. I once tried to give up tea. Sorry, baby Jesus. No, I can't do that.
I never thought you'd ever try that.
So yeah, I'm feeling much better. Energy's coming back. So this week, my aim is to build up, basically try and do like about an hour's worth of running every day, and then if I've got the energy to do like a ski tour. Sadly, like, oh my gosh, we ski toured yesterday. It was so hot and I went in like 3 layers because it's shady in the car park, and had like this big buff on. And as we were going up, I was having to like throw off we were in t-shirts like you, but it was like, must have been like 18, 90 degrees. And you've got the sun reflecting off the snow as well. But I tell you what, Gary, I looked at my Strava, like what time do I normally do that climb in? And normally it's about 34 to 35 minutes. And yesterday I did it in 35 minutes. I'm like, well, how does that work? How does that work? I've hardly trained for the last 5 weeks. I've hardly ski toured, and I can go and just do the same pace. Does that mean I've just got one pace, or
you were just desperate for that tea stop?
I just wanted the tea. Oh my god, it's so good. So I'm adding on a little bit more volume, keeping it all like no intensity. That's the one thing I still notice is that when I go out for my run, it's basically all uphill. About 1,200 feet on my like normal hour run uphill, and then I turn around and run back down. So it's like a steady, and it's got the odd like pitchy 20% as you like go up and down.
Yeah.
And my heart rate, so I'm wearing my heart rate monitor again now to just like see it. So on the downs and on the flats, it's kind of normal, 130, nice and easy, cruisy. And then the minute I go uphill, it goes up to like 155 and I cannot get my breath.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it feels like the body hasn't reset itself. It's like, whoa. So as your recovery plan said, Gary, I think what I might try is a little bit of like uphill strides to try and pull that heart rate up and let it recover, to almost re-educate it like, this is
good idea.
A bit of intensity, drop back down, you're going to recover. You don't worry, body. You're not going out for 5 days. Yeah. This is just start to get back into it.
I love the strides. I love the minutes when you're just coming back into
so those will be, those are probably next week. I will do a little bit of uphill. But sadly, the weather, we had snow on the forecast and it's disappeared and it's going to be rain. And so that makes it tricky. The skiing is pretty bad at the moment. There isn't a lot of coverage anywhere. And that means if the snow gets washed away on my track as well, tricky for running. Anyway, can't complain. Yeah, onwards and upwards. My next thing, we'll be thinking about the future, but we're going to talk about that at the end of the podcast. Let's get on.
Well, before we move on, I've got a little bone to pick with you. You asked me what song to use for the Instagram story.
No, okay. So I meant to tell you, I couldn't find your songs. So I
checked, they were all on there. Every one of them was on there.
Well, I didn't look very hard, to be honest. I'm such a child when you go, did you look for that slipper? I looked everywhere.
Mark Owen, I nearly died. Oh, my goodness.
No, I loved it. Did you not like it?
Control, Edwina.
I was like, I can't find his songs. Oh, well. I'm so sorry.
It's funny. That's fine.
I'm so sorry. It was my choice of song, everybody. I love Mark Owen. Love him.
I was surprised. Complete curveball, that one.
It was just a curveball, keep you on your toes, you know. It's also I like because you are in a lot of control of the podcast, and so just occasionally I just remind you that I can.
I was twitching. I was like, oh, let's go. That was good. That was good. I enjoyed our weekly catch up there, Eddie. That was good. But yeah, moving on. It's now time for Brew with the coaches. This week's Brew with the coaches question comes from Megan Owen. I had a big month of running in December and have been taking it easy in January to start the year off on a lighter note. It's been a couple of weeks now and I feel like I've lost fitness and confidence and I'm almost a bit scared to go out and tackle some big fell miles again, especially as weather is currently so wet. I'm sure their answer will be just do it. But I guess my question is, how common is it to feel a lack of confidence after a break? Have they felt like that? And is it possible to lose fitness so quickly? Apologies for getting to this a bit late, Megan. Trish, over to you.
Okay, so I would say first, don't worry, okay? Everyone has been through that and it's really normal. Everyone will go through a point where they'll lose a bit of confidence in their running, whether they're, they go out and run a couple of times a week or they're a professional runner. For a fact, everyone will lose confidence in their running ability at some point. So you are definitely not alone. The second thing is, definitely just get back out there. That's the hardest thing sometimes, is just to put your shoes on and get out the door. But start easy again, go out, go have a few easy days. If you've got some friends, I always think it's much easier to do those harder days with some friends who are at a similar ability or who aren't going to rag you if you go into the hills with them. So pick a friend that isn't going to crush your soul when you go out there.
So not Russell. Do not choose Russell as your companion because he'll see the weakness and take you
Crush
down.
your soul.
Crush your soul. So go out with a friend, who's going to run at a pace that's a good, fun, chatty pace and have a good day of it. And I'd start off doing that. Those easy runs, getting some distance back in the legs. And remember, your training, the vast majority of your training should be in that nice, easy zone anyway. So you don't want to be going off and thrashing yourself in the hills straight away. You want to be doing nice, long, easy days at chatty pace, getting loads of snacks down, some pork pies or pasties or whatever it is you'd like to eat. And do that and your confidence will come back. But the key thing is for sure is don't worry. Everyone has a blip. Everyone loses confidence at some time. It's totally normal. 2, get back out, easy runs to start off with, like you should be doing, because that's good training, and go with friends who are going to help you with that. Stay in that nice zone. Don't go with someone who's going to thrash you. Save that person for your threshold training days.
And it comes back really quickly. We think if we have a big break, which is,
yeah,
it's like you've been really sensible, Megan, and you had a massive month and then you've taken some downtime, exactly what you should be doing. And sometimes you think, I'll never get back to that fitness. But I promise you, like even just 1 week later, when you've gone out and you've been like, oh my God, half an hour feels like 5 hours. Then the next week you'll be like, oh my God, I did 40 minutes and that was fine. And very soon it all starts to click. Just take it really, as Trish says, really steady and build up little by little and just get the consistency, get that little habit of running back into your life. And don't compare yourself to where you were 2 months before. Just start moving forward and building the next year and the next you, rather than constantly.
Remember, you've got a good base. She's got a good base because she did a lot of running in December. So you still have that base. In terms of your fitness, you lose VO2. Your VO2 max starts to decline, and it's approximately every kind of two weeks for your VO2 to decline. But that even then, you've still got a very good base to come back on, so that will improve again quite quickly. So I don't think you would have lost a huge amount of fitness. I think you might need a bit of sharpening just to get back up, but again, you want to build that base up first before you start sharpening and really getting into those.
And she hasn't stopped running, has she? She has been running still, just on a light note. So it's not like say complete zero exercise in January. So
let's smash it! Come on, what are you doing? Get back out there! Awesome.
Yeah, the Norwegians have a word, doorstock miller. Have you heard that word?
oh no,
Doorstock miller. It means the doorstop mile. And it basically means how hard it is to get out of door when it's cold and dark. And obviously it's colder and darker in Norway right now. But it's respecting how difficult that can be in the winter. And it's difficult for everyone. So just be really kind to yourself, Megan. A thing that works for me, yes, obviously, like Trish said, is booking in with friends, because then you're committed to that and you don't want to let them down, and that really helps. I promise myself like all the goodies when I get home. I'm like, if I just get out the door and just do like 1 mile or 2 miles, just get out and do it, and come home and have nice warm hot chocolate. And I'm weak and I'm lazy, and I know that, especially in the dark. I'm scared of the dark. I just be honest about that. It is hard this time of year, and everyone struggles unless you live like in the Rift Valley in Kenya, and there's just like Lion King going on out there every day. It's tough here, so just be aware of that and be kind to yourself, I would say.
You've got this, Megan. Keep us posted. Let us know how you get on. Don't worry, Megan, at all about being totally unfit. I am totally unfit. And I think just relax into the process and enjoy that every session you do, you're going to feel a little bit better and a little bit, because it's much harder when you're fit to get to do anything that makes you feel better, isn't it?
Diminishing returns, yeah.
Diminishing returns. Whereas when you restart, I'm like, oh, every day I'm going like that was a 9-minute mile. Look at me flying down the trail.
There'll be a moment one day. There'll be, like I referred to in our catch up, that I just felt like I was getting back there after my long illness, and there will be a moment, Megan, where it's like, yeah, we're back.
I'm back, and I'm gonna show you how to really shake it down. Talking about shaking it down, here is our chat with Ellis Bland. Now, I don't know. Normally on the podcast, I pretty much have known everybody, but I don't know Ellis at all. Second at the Cheviot Goat, second at the Arc. 2 races he must have done that Cheviot Goat leading into the Arc. That's some recovery. You might have seen him. He's the Team Vaga. Is it Vaga or Vaga?
Vaga, yeah. There's a team of 3 people who won the business, but yeah, that's Ellis's business.
Hadrian's Wall FKT. I cannot wait to find out more about that. And more than one attempt at a double Bob going around. Oh my gosh, Gary, you are going to love our chat with it. Here's our chat with Ellis Bland. Hi, Ellis. Thank you so much for giving up your precious time to get today. Fresh from a second place at Arc of Attrition, and not long ago, either second at the Cheviot Goat. How are you feeling? How's recovery going? Are we 3 weeks post-Arc now?
3 weeks post-Arc? Yeah, this is a funny week. I always, after something that length or that terrain, will always try and catch it inside a month. And it won't be full training this week, but back up north of 70 miles, getting towards the sharper end. But I always try and catch it inside a month. And this has been one of the harder recoveries. But I just think that's coastal path running. When I raced the Rat with Mud Crew, that was the same thing. That was 100 kilometers. And it's just very, very different to what I'm used to doing. Whereas like the Cheviot, I was back running well on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, like 4 days later. And that was near enough 100 kilometers. So I don't know. There's something about climbing for 3 minutes and descending for 1 minute.
It's not natural.
Over and over again. It's just a mess. So, I don't know. It's been a long one, this recovery. I've enjoyed it. I've eaten really well. But there was a bit of a text exchange on Sunday with my coach, and he was like, so are you going to pull the trigger this week and actually get back moving? And I said, yeah, okay. So...
What does your week post 100 miler look like? Are you like a total rest person? Do you start moving again quite quickly, or does it depend on the race as well?
Totally depends. I'm getting better. At first, I'm happy to talk about this because more people should, especially more men. I'm a very anxious person in all walks of life. Anxious before, anxious after, not just running. And the big anxiety for me has always been, should I be back running? Should I be back training? Why am I so slow? It's been 2 months, blah, 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 blah. And that's something which, working with Rowan, I probably spend more time with my coach speaking about the psychology side of things than the physical side. That's something with my coach that I've started to iron out more, and I'm like to say I'm more in tune with my body now. And so, like, after the Cheviot, I didn't feel I didn't feel like I was rushing. It just felt right.
Yeah.
And after the arc, it didn't feel right. And, you know, post arc, I finished at 8:30 in the morning on the Saturday, went to the Airbnb, so it was a long way from home, and then had a weird broken sleep for a few hours, and then fish and chips for dinner, and then a weird broken sleep. And I think I went for a little like shuffle on the Wednesday with a pal of mine, and then realized I was in all sorts of trouble. And I mean, I'm talking like a shuffle, like 12-minute miles, and for like 2 miles. And then I think I ran again on the Sunday. I still wasn't right, but it was so concentrated on my quads. I take quite good pride in leg strength, and it was comical how much that race just targeted that muscle group. Everything else was fine. Back was fine, shoulders were fine, calves were absolutely fine, hammies were fine, but my quads were in pieces. And where I live, it's not very flat, so going up I was fine because I was just popping, but coming down, and it was just the old me would have been angry at that. You know, even 2 weeks on, I was still struggling, whereas I was just laughing at myself because I would go 3 miles out up the hill, and then I'd be like, I feel fine. I'd turn around, and after 100 meters, I knew I was in trouble. So,
Sorry, I just wondered if that was just because you said about these 3-minute climbs, completely different to see the Cheviot. And do you think that's what it was that caught up with your quads so much?
Yeah, I mean, I can remember being in St. Ives checkpoint. I was having some beans on toast. I was in a really lovely situation because the lad who was in third, Daniel Weller, he was never gaining, nor was he ever dropping. And we were in the driving seat because we were able to get in. By we, I mean me and Gavin Dale. We were able to get into checkpoints and ask where he was, or look on trackers and see where he was. And then we could really like script our own race. And I can remember sitting in St. Ives knowing that I had like 20 minutes before he got into St. Ives. And I remember thinking in that moment, 80 miles in, my quads feel like they will feel or should feel tomorrow. Already I felt I was in like, not even early stages of DOMS. I felt like I was properly there. And you know, it's widely spoken about at the Arc, which is 2 races. You get into St. Ives and you've very much broken the back. You know, Zena, or from Zena into St. Ives is a really tricksy section of coastline. You don't see crew. If you do, they're like precariously on the edge of a cliff. So there's not a great deal of interaction, I should say.
Yeah.
And then you get into St. Ives and it's very, very runnable for that last 22 miles. So you sort of have to save some legs, but at the same time, you know, 22 miles is a long way. And it was a funny old moment getting the gears turning again coming out of St. Ives because I felt like I was struggling quite a lot. And needless to say, that's testament to Gavin, who I'm the first to praise. Anyone who beats me, you know, I'll always say I've lost to worse runners than me, and I've beaten better runners than me. But on that day, he was a better runner than me, and he beat me. And but he actually went from St. Ives, and in my head, and you know, my arrogance and my ego, which I think again is widely under discussed, but you need it. I'm there thinking, God, that's a long way to go, to break from me that early. Yeah, and it nearly didn't work for him, and in the end it did. But yeah, it was a tough week in answer to your question after that. But mentally I was strong, and physically I was broken. I don't mind.
That's the perfect balance. It's much better to come away from 100%. A race, I think, physically totally broken, but mentally feeling resilient and strong, so you can handle that recovery process. I think when you've had a really crappy race and things haven't gone your way, it can go when it swings the other way. It's almost much worse when physically you don't feel that bad, but mentally you beat yourself up. For some people, definitely. You know, you can go on for months, weeks. People DNF at big races or just have a really bad race, and it lives with them for a long time. And as you said, sometimes It's not shared, like you saying that you feel that bad or something after races. Well, I've whined about my race, haven't I, for 5 weeks?
Yeah, we milked it.
No, it's fine. Can you tell us a little bit about your running has come from, Ellis? Have you always been a runner from a wee lad, or is it something that you sort of discovered later in life?
It's always a funny question to answer this because it almost sounds like it was expected of me. It wasn't, and I have to make that really clear. As a child, nothing brought me greater joy than sport, and I'm the biggest advocate of any sport. So I would play rugby on the Saturday and a football match on the Saturday, and then I would do the same on the Sunday. And if there was a fell race on the Saturday, then I would do that, and then on the Sunday I would play a football match and a rugby match. And it was never like my dad would say, "Oh, Ellis, it's Grasmere Sports this weekend, we're going." It was like, "Do you want to do it?" And I'd be like, 100%. As a junior, I just loved it. I absolutely loved it as a junior, and nothing brought me greater joy than running in the fells, because that's all it really was for me growing up. You know, you're too young to trail race, which is an interesting conversation in itself. There's not much junior trail racing, and I don't really know why.
Yeah.
No, because in France, every single trail race you have, there's a kids race.
Yeah,
Kids race, always. And all the schools have kids trail races. Like, you run on the trails. There's no road. You just, the trail race is like, okay, and here's the kids option. I think I think every trail race should be like, there's a 2K, 3K, kids loop. But it's not, it is competitive, but it's also just about participation. Kids 100%. Get given a bib and they're just like, they run around. Parent dragging a screaming child. Come on!
Was there, where you live, Ellis, was the fell running scene as a youth similar to where I live, maybe cross country with the age groups?
Oh yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I was laughing because we were going through some old I was going through some photos with my mom, and we were looking at the last time my dad raced, which would have been at the Ostwick Amble, and Mum says to me, "You must be about 4 here." And I'm saying, "Yeah, but I'm in an under sevens bib." And she was like, "Well, we had high expectations of you." But I can remember racing in like under sixes, and my little brother was also racing that day in like the under fours, the under fives, and up here, I live in Lancaster, but we race in Bowland, I race in the lakes on the fells. But, back then it was a fell race would be, so like Grasmere Sports is such a great example. I mean, if anyone is listening to this and wants to see just how ludicrous the sport of fell running is, then Grasmere Sports is the one. The record's just over 12 minutes. It's been set for like the best part of 40 years now. And as a junior, you would run to the first wall and then come back, and it would be all of like 300 meters, but you felt like a king.
Yeah.
And then the year after, you'd go to the stile and back, and then the next one it'd be up to the top wall, and then before you know it, you're at under 16s and you get to race in the seniors race, but still in an under 16 category. And it was a really beautiful introduction to fell running, because there's sort of no expectation on you as a kid, because in essence what you're doing is kind of rubbish. You're just running across the field and back, but you felt such a part of it because you near enough always are running on the senior route in some capacity. Yeah. So there was always, as a kid, this expectation in myself of, okay, so this year I made it to the wall and I've had to turn back, but I know next year I get to go up to the tree. And then eventually it was like, well, this year I'm under 18s now and I get to go to the flag. I get to go up to the top with all my dad's mates. And that was really cool. And so that was my youth, was basically just running. And I didn't get pocket money as a kid, but I would win like 20 quid at these fell races. And it was like unbelievable. I didn't know what to spend it on.
That's a load of money.
Yeah, loads of money. I mean, my first job, I was, I think, 10 years old, and I did a paper round for 2 quid a day. And my mum had to come because I was so young and she wouldn't take a cut. But I can remember getting like 20 quid at Ambleside Sports. And that was just like phenomenal. Like the fact I was making money for just running up this like grass mound. It wasn't even a fell, and that was so much fun and really competitive, like junior scene. And I still occasionally, when I race on the fells, race against people, I raced when I was 7 years old.
Love it.
And then that progressed. You mentioned about game sport as well, rugby, football. You carried on into your sort of like teenage years. We were just saying that we were both at Durham. Sadly, not at the same time. I'm a little bit older than Ellis, but we were comparing notes of playing sport at uni. What about now? What does 9 to 5 life look like? You run quite a business that a lot of our listeners might have heard of.
Yeah. I'm one of the co-founders of Vega, however you want to say it. We don't care. Yeah, we make running caps.
What does the word mean something? Am I being stupid asking that?
No, you're not being stupid.
Where does the word come from?
You can never be stupid talking to me. It's not possible. Vaga, it's a Scandinavian, but it's a Swedish term, and pronounced Vorga.
Vorga.
It means to dare, to venture, to risk, and you've got to name your business something. I mean, we can plug Vaga happily, but Vaga is, to me and to my business partner, it's so much more than this. And I know brands say this all the time, but to say we truly believe in the sport itself, and we make a product which is let's say, I don't like using the word cheap, but more of an entry level price point, because I don't understand in the world, look at cycling. It's become so expensive and elitist. And at the end of the day, if you just want to ride your bike, you just want to ride your bike. And I noticed that was happening in running a lot. When did we start spending £80 on a pair of split shorts? And we came up with this concept of Vaga, which was, there's 500 people in a race. 5 of us think we can win it. We get all our stuff for free anyway. But so we're not the market. I'm not the market. But you get there's 495 people who are there because they love running, and no brand, in my opinion, I stand by this, and I'm open to comments, but no brand I'm aware of is actually even bothered about the mass market, which is where we all came from. I'm proud to say I came from the mid pack. It's only because of sheer stubbornness that I'm anywhere near the front now, and we created Vaga to celebrate that. And we have first and last place in our product, and that brings me so much joy. So my whole 9 till 5 is I don't handle the boring stuff at Vaga. I don't handle the tax. I don't handle the payroll. I handle the PR of the company. Do we look good doing this? Is this a smart move for us? Are they a good person? Are they a bad person? Am I a bad person? Is this a good one? It's a constant toe in the line, because I never want the brand, I never want anyone to ever say we don't believe it. We don't believe in what we do. And everything we do has been meticulously planned out, and there's so much passion involved in this. We don't do the ambassador programs. We don't do this. We don't do that. We are just purely here for absolutely everyone, and we love it. We absolutely love it. So that is my 9 till 5. I live, sleep, breathe running, and I do quite a bit on top of that myself, I guess you'd say.
Do you ever wish you did a job that wasn't related to running? Do you ever think, I'd just like to step away from this? Or are you content with being totally immersed in it 24/7?
I am so unbelievably content with my entire existence. And I was having a conversation at a barbecue a few years ago, and someone asked me, like, where do you want to go with your running? And it sounds so airy-fairy, if I can use that term. And I just turned, I've never met this man before. And I said, look, all I want to do is just be happy. I said, that's all I want from my running. I said, if I wanted to make money, I'd have been in F1. I would have pursued my rugby. I would have pursued my football.
Tennis, golf.
Yeah. I played county level, everything, played North England, football. I could have tried, but it was like this calling to running. And now that I'm so ingrained on it on a business side as well, I fall in love with it more and more every day, tracking the spine, and I'm more interested in the rear end of the race. That's such an interesting outlook on a sport, whereas normally we're just taught to look at further, faster, fitter, stronger. Yeah. Whereas I'm there looking at resilience, like pure heart, someone who goes into a race with zero idea how long that's going to take them. And I'm there like, my God, you're so mentally strong. I'm more impressed by you than I am by myself. And yet I get the praise for coming in the top 3. But that's rubbish. I know how long these things are going to take me most of the time. That's not It's not impressive. Not really. What's impressive is doing these things because you just like, well, I just want to complete it, and I don't care what it takes. You know?
And also,
So,
you don't know if you can do it. Like for us, 50-mile race. We you know, where's the challenge in that? In some ways, like we know we can do it, whatever, like curveballs. But people throwing themselves into stuff that they have no idea, they don't know if they can do it, and then they do it. That is that's probably quite a lot of what your company look for as well, is that people, you know, setting challenges and against all odds completing them as well.
I love the long race. The longer the race, the spine amplifies it even more. But somebody's experience, say Damien's experience, completely different to the person chasing cutoffs. And I can't imagine the toll that would take on the body on a 100-miler. I remember I'm a mid-pack runner. But I remember sitting eating. I had a bit to sleep, a few hours sleep, and a bite to eat, and there was people still coming in, and it was just mind blowing. That their journey, their story, it's amazing. All from the front, right the way to the back.
The one that always springs to mind to me, and I often talk to people, anyone who'll listen, because, like I said, the front runners get this praise, and a part of it is deserved because numbers are impressive. Like it's always been that way, you know. Time is impressive. The less time something takes is, for most parts, better. But I remember when I raced the Rat, and it's an out and back 100k, 31 out, 31 back, and I passed last place and I had 18 miles to go. And they looked at me and they clapped and they said, "Oh, God, you're amazing." And I wanted, if I wasn't absolutely gunning for this sub 10 hours, I wanted to stop and say, "No, I've got 18 miles to go and you're 18 miles in." I was like, I'm not the impressive one. Like, you've just witnessed a runner on the home straight and you're going to be out there for another 20 plus hours. And that has stuck with me ever since that moment. And that was the first thing I thought when I finished it. And I was checking in on that person and just hoping and praying that they beat all the cutoffs, and they did. And I was so unbelievably moved by that moment. And they came up and congratulated me, and I came up and congratulated them. And this was like the next day. Like I'd showered, I'd slept, I'd done everything. And I was like, God, I'm not impressive. Like that was amazing. And I always think about that. And, you know, even down to like, I spoke quite openly about my experiences at UTMB this year, and I ran a poor race. I was underprepared. There was things out of my control, but I didn't execute a good race. But all I kept thinking about, I was at Champagne Lac. I was getting told off by my parents because they were like, "What the bloody hell's going on?" And all I'm thinking about is this woman that I saw in a race in Cornwall, and I was like, "Well, they just ground it out, Ellis, and maybe you should just, you know, fucking pull it together and get this over the line." And I did. And, you know, today we'll focus on the arc and achieve it 2 second place results. But arguably my most impressive result was 198th at the CCC when I wanted a top 20, you know. So it's just funny how this sport works. And I'm very honored and very proud to be firmly locked into it now on both business and personal sides. So, yeah.
I love that. You never know who's watching. I'm mindful of this. We've got a little bit of a platform on the podcast. You never know who's watching. But to hear somebody who is, you know, fighting for podium finishes, to take inspiration from somebody who is potentially chasing cutoffs, I think it's awesome.
100%. It's not a PR stunt. I stand by it. The thought of being picked up by a grim sweeper scares me so much that the idea that people are like literally keeping them at bay in their own race at the back is like amazing. I couldn't do it, and testament to absolutely everyone, you know.
Should we go have a little bit of chat about the arc? What, I know it's the second time you've done it, Ellis. I could be wrong. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but you retired in 2022.
Yeah.
So why go back twice? And I suppose why the arc?
I love it in Cornwall. I think the community in Cornwall for the trail racing is the only thing I've seen which resembles the fell race scene in terms of pure passion. You know, by and large, yeah, we're sponsored athletes, but it's still very much an amateur sport. There's no money involved at, say, the arc or any races. It's not a negative. I'm using it as a positive. And I went down in 2022, and if you would have asked me before that race how you're going to get on, I said I'm on for a blinder. I thought I'm feeling great, because you do these massive tapers. Of course you feel great. You've not really moved for 2 weeks. I always think about like Western States female record. The woman who holds that, she didn't run for 21 days, nothing. And so I put in a big taper for it, and I started running, and I knew something wasn't right, and I was profusely sweating. And it turned out after 15 miles, I was walking the flats, and I had problems with my breathing, and it took about 6 months to get over that. Physically, I had 20% lung capacity in that race, and I just had a horrific chest infection, which I couldn't shift. And, last year was a disappointing year, and the Cheviot was fantastic. But that was I was back running then. But if you definitely look at the first 8 months of last year, the main reason I went back to the Arc is because it was like, this was this weird monkey on my back, because it all came undone at the Arc, and then the rest of the year was basically dictated by that result. It was always a caveat every race I went into and I could feel it in my own head. Like, I wonder what Ellis is going to show up today. My confidence was down. Physically, I wasn't performing. I'd happily speak about weight again, something not many men are open to discussing, but, I race at about 11 stone 10, 11 stone 11, but yet my body wants to be 13 and a half stone. So
yeah, okay.
When I'm not able to compete at the highest level or even train, my body weight fluctuates, and everything just kept coming back to this horrible 100-mile race in Cornwall. Like, this is where it all came undone. So you've got to go back and prove a point to yourself, and again, this is where ego comes into it. Again, widely under discussed, but I wanted to prove it to myself. I didn't really care about the sponsors, and I didn't really care for anyone else in the race. And I just said, Ellis, you've got to run this 100-mile route, because if not, you'll never move on. It's the same with me in the double Bob Graham. I've got to get it done because I can't move on. I'm so stubborn.
Yeah.
And so I came back, and it was everything I wanted and more. It was perfect. I wasn't bothered that I came second. I wouldn't have been bothered if I came fifth. As long as I executed what I wanted to execute, I was truly, truly content. And in the end, the result was flattering for Gavin, and I like Gavin, and he won't mind me saying that. But there was an incident at mile 90 where I'm running towards my partner, Rachel. She's been crewing the whole night. She sees me, I see her, and she's looking like through me. And I'm only like 20 yards from her. And she goes, "Oh, Ellis, it's you?" And I'm like, "Yep, yeah." And she said, "Oh, you're in first place." And I thought, oh my God, he's got lost. And so I gunned it for 5 miles, trying to put distance in between me and Gavin. And then I saw Rachel and Elsie Davis 5 miles later, and they said, "Oh, Ellis, I don't know how we missed him, but you're actually still in second place. And but you're only 2 minutes back." And that set the tone then. And in that moment, I didn't lose my head. Felt fine, but I'd put so much effort in for those 5 miles that was my race done.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I revisited why I was there, because I still had 7 miles to go over some pretty tough terrain. Those last 7 miles of the Arc are arguably the toughest section, and I just said, "Ellis, no, you just get this finished now." And I was very, very content. So that's why I went back, was to probably just prove to myself that you can cut the mustard.
That's enough, just to prove to yourself. I think that's more than enough. You mentioned about the end of the course possibly being the toughest part, but we had a guest on recently, Robin Cassidy, and she mentioned the Dunes of Doom. Do they bring back any memories for you?
Well, yeah. So that section I'm talking about, where I gunned it like Forrest Gump, that was in the car park before the dunes. Now, I've recce'd the dunes a couple of times because it's really tricksy. They sound horrific, the Dunes of Doom. They're not all that, but it's picky. You've got to know your lines. Otherwise, you're literally just running up sandbanks. If you know it, it's fine. If you don't know it, I mean, like Daniel, the lad who came third, won't mind me saying this, his tracker at one point was asleep in the dunes because he was just like, he was just running into like different sandbanks and just not knowing. But that was actually the section where was gunning it, thinking I'm in first place here and I'm running for home, because it's very easy to get lost in the section before the dunes. You're running through a town called Hale. It's not all that glamorous, no disrespect to Hale, but it's that particular section is like a bit of industrial parks. Like I did a full lap of an Asda car park by accident. Like it's easy to go walkabout in Hale. So when Rachel said to me, "You're in first," I was like, "That's highly plausible." I really thought, yeah, maybe. And to only be 2 minutes back from Daniel with these last 10 miles or so, I thought, yeah, you're going to actually just hold off, because I'd given it all. And, that's something that I've spoken about a lot in the past. And I think so many people who follow trackers, because like trackers are the worst thing ever. Like I love them and I hate them, and my mum hates them. Because she's like, you become so infatuated with this dot.
My mum too. She has PTSD from trackers.
Yeah,
I don't give them to her anymore, because I'm like, Mum, just don't invest in it. It's 100%. Not real. It's not real, Mum. It's not me, really.
Yeah, and I think the probably biggest one with the tracker is it's not you. It never is you. It's on your person. But if I stop on a double Bob Graham attempt, I might be stopping to go for a pee. But my mum is suddenly like, he's fallen off the side of Bow Fell, and it's like, but I've not, and I think the whole tracker gate makes things really difficult, and I think people often look at the trackers, and you get tagged on stuff on Instagram, and it's the trackers, and like, oh, he's so close to Daniel, and or he's so close to Gavin, and I'm like, well, yeah, but actually I'm nowhere near them in terms of the race, because I know what's in front of me. And it was just like that for the whole last 20 miles. It was just a bit of cat and mouse. And
was there a bit of a post-mortem how your crew missed the guy who was in first place?
Oh, no idea. It's hard. The hardest job is for the crew. My job's really easy. It's a point to point. Let's get there as quick as possible. They're having to orchestrate everything, food stops, different meeting points.
Yeah.
Maybe
psychologist.
Maybe Daniel came through. Maybe Gavin, came through the back of a car park. Maybe I went through the front of it. I don't worry about it, and there's no hard feelings.
No.
But again, the old me would have. I'm a fiery character, and I race to win. And when you come from where I've come from in the field, you now race to win. But this was different. It was almost, I can remember actually when Rachel did tell me you're not actually in first. And I must have scowled or something, because I was disappointed. And she just went, well, don't be a shit about it. And I'm there, I'm like,
brilliant.
I'm 94 miles in. I was like, I just want to be a little bit of a shit about it. Like, I'm not gonna lose my temper. I was like, well, I am disappointed. I'm not gonna laugh. But I don't know. It was since CCC. I always, it sounds so. I always try and see some positives, and the biggest win from the Arc was not winning. It was superb. To not lose your head in a moment where the old you would have lost your head is a huge win.
Yeah.
And only on reflection of previous results and performances do you get to see the positives. And, you've got to take the rough with the smooth. And the biggest win was not winning. And I'd stand by that, actually.
So what was your emotions as you came into the finish then? Because, you obviously said the biggest win was not winning, but you've also had a lot of time on your own for hours and hours and hours, and it's early in the morning. So it's like all coming at you at once. How are you feeling?
It was pure relief, and this is weirdly my favorite thing about, when you race a fell race, everything is about that finish, because nothing else matters. It's explode your lungs for whether it's 2 miles or Wasdale Fell race 21 miles, and it's all about the finish time, it's all about the finish position. Whereas I find with the ultras, it's like the race was finished ages ago. You've teed the whole thing up. If you've orchestrated a great race, it's set in stone. So when I get to the end of the Arc, there was probably the best part of 6-7 people there. 2 of them were the people that I'd seen all through the night. One of them was a film videographer who I've also seen loads. So I knew half of them were going to be there anyway. And this will sound like it's a discredit to Mud Crew, but this is the same everywhere. And I love it for this reason. It's underwhelming when you finish an ultra, and that for me is perfect. Like, the heroes are still on the course, and you were one of those heroes. Now you've just got to the finish, and it's time to go home. You know.
Well, that's why we run the ultras, is to go home at the end, isn't it? Like, the whole time you're running, you're like, soon, cup of tea, sit down, back at home in the armchair, job done. That's all you want, is that satisfaction. You don't need the applause, you know, and all you really want at the finish line is your loved ones, isn't it? Because you've been to, like, it's bad to say to a battle, but that's how you feel, isn't it? And if you just want a hug from somebody that gets it, and that's all you need. And I think that's why we're all addicted to those finish lines as well.
Definitely. I mean, one of the directors of Mud Cruise is just a fantastic woman called Jane Stevens, and to say she has a special place in my heart would be an understatement. And there's a beautiful picture, and it's me hugging her, and it's normally always the other way around. She hugs everyone. It's me hugging her. And that for me was really poignant, because it was that moment of relief, and that was my finish line, was there's Jane, I'll hug you. And now I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to go home. And that was perfect. I didn't do any post-race interviews. There was no dissection of, could you have got first? Yeah. I think I shook Gavin's hand, and then I went home, and it was perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah. We don't do it to be heroes at the finish line. I did that at the lap on Windermere, where I was chasing a sub-7 hour, never been done before. And I made it by 30 seconds. And that was the most stressful thing I've ever done in running. And I said, I don't ever want to have to do that again. So
that sounds horrendous.
Yeah, it was horrendous. So yeah, I've done the hero thing. I'm over it.
Cool. Can we talk a little bit about training, actually? I saw over on Instagram that you're quite fond of park runs, and you're not scared to be seen down at the track too. What would a typical week look like for you when you are back training again, obviously?
It's easier to speak about it in the run up to a race. So like, I'm racing Canyon's endurance run at the end of April, so 100 kilometers in the States. So that's fast. You know, it's 4,000 meters to climb, but it's runnable. So speed is everything for that. I'm a huge advocate of VO2 max. More long distance runners need to be running shorter distances. Like, that's the only reason I race the Fells. I don't race the Fells to win. Sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't. But I race the Fells because it brings something to your arsenal which you can't get anywhere else. So for Canyons, it will ramp up to about 100-mile plus weeks for 3 weeks consecutive. In that week, there'll be, I'd say, 3 key sessions. There'll be something like a hill rep session, so maybe 10 1 minutes, and then float back down in the rest. I say float, and that sounds lovely. But after about rep 4, it's walk back down.
Yep.
And then do it again. By like rep 8, it's vomit all the way down. And then there'd be maybe like a 10-mile progressive run. It will be in there. Maybe mile 6 to 9 will be 90% plus effort.
That sounds like our 2020 Eddie.
Yeah.
Got all the ingredients so far. 2 sessions. Those ones. Just need the third.
And then I will do a long run. And the long run is such a funny conversation, because it's like, again, going back to like someone like my grandma, she'd be like, oh, my grandson, he runs these really long distances. So people immediately think you run long in training. Very rarely am I going north of 22 miles.
Yeah.
Very, very, very rarely am I doing that. The only reason I would do that is if somebody puts a route forward to me, which I want to do. So maybe a 29 miler. And I'll be like, because I'm getting like outlying fells, which I've never visited before, then maybe I'll throw that in. But 20-mile run. So like, I'm doing that today, and this will be my first run back of anything more than 11 miles. So since the arc. So that's normally how it would go. And then, you mentioned I often will go down and I'll race the track. More than anything, I love going down and running with the road runners, because it is the most humbling experience ever. Like, I don't like saying I am slow, because I understand if you run a very low 16-minute 5K, that is considered very fast by some people. I mean, I'm slow compared to some of these males and females. And I love doing that. I love going down there and just getting absolutely tranced, because that's what's making you stronger up top. Is anyone can be a big fish in a small pond, but to be a very, very small fish in a very, very big pond is a really, really funny spot to find yourself in when you're podiuming left, right, and centre. And I do that for fun. You know, I have no expectations of myself. There's goals there, but in reality, I'm going there to get beaten, and I quite like that.
Anything else you do to supplement running? Do you do any cross training or strength training?
I am a very bad advocate for the world of strength training, and it's a widely discussed thing between me and my coach. I should be doing more. I've got terribly, terribly weak hamstrings, and I don't know how it happened. I don't know why it happened, but whenever I'm doing my strength work, you know, I've got like 20 kilos on the squat bar, and my hamstrings are in pieces. Yeah, I can climb for 2 nights on the double Bob Graham attempts, and I'm fine. But the minute I'm in a gym, I struggle, and because of that, I do neglect it. What I compensate with, and this is all testament to my partner Rachel, is I have reluctantly, but I'm there now. I'm big into my yoga, and that has changed everything. I'm now more passionate about my yoga than I am about my running, and I don't know the first thing about it. I don't research it. I just go to classes when Rachel's teaching. And again, maybe it's a little bit like when I go down to the track, although Rachel tells me this isn't what yoga's about. But I just love going down there and just getting basically my arse handed to me. There's people upside down on one hand, and I'm there like struggling to get into a downward dog.
It's amazing,
but I love that. And so like last night I'm practicing yoga, and that's where I'm finding strength is coming for me, is a lot of mobility work. I'd
have thought the hamstring strength is probably, you've got the strength, it's the mobility to actually
harness it.
Do you do the side eye in the yoga class, which I do in my Pilates, when we're like doing the exercise and I'm just looking at what it's meant to look like, how everyone else is doing it?
I don't do the side eye. I literally just stop and I'm just gawping. And normally it's at my own girlfriend, because I mean, I'll tell you now, when me and Rachel first got together many, many, many years ago, she told me she taught yoga, and I had a preconceived idea as to what that was. I told her I ran, and she had a preconceived idea. What I went on to discover about her practice is it is far more devoted than mine, and I'm a prolific trainer. You know, lockdown for me was the easiest thing ever.
Yeah,
I train all the time, and I occasionally race. You know, my mates who race the fells and the track, they had it tough. They race every weekend. I race 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Whereas Rachel's practice is so devoted, you know. So on a Sunday, for example, if she's doing Sunday service, she might practice for 4 hours. You know, it's like, Ellis, you need to go out and train, because I'm locking in. And what I went on to understand with yoga, and what I'm finally reaping the rewards of, is intentions, why we do this, you know. And I bring that into my running. Why am I here? What's the goal? What's the intention? Who do I want to do this for? And you know, when I'm sat in class and I'm golfing at my own girlfriend, which almost looks a bit perverse, I'm sure, but it's more out of pure respect, because I'm like, I can see the hours you've put in to hold that straddle press scorpion one hand amazing pose, and she's breathing through it and she's talking through it. And it's only in those moments in the class can I draw these huge parallels to where I'm at 94 miles in, when I'm wanting to maybe lose my cool a little bit. And Rachel can see there that Ellis is putting a lot of work to get to this point. I'm still going to tell him not to be a shit about it.
Yeah.
But she can respect me and I can respect her. And we come from totally different fields, but there is a huge, huge respect between the two of us. And we understand each other's practices. We just don't really understand how each other do it. So, and I don't know. So yeah, the yoga is the biggest thing going on in my life at the moment, because I'm just determined to not be the guy gawping. I want to be the guy
side eye.
Yeah, I want to be gawped at. It's just a
Shout
vanity
out.
project.
Shout out to all these people who lead an exercise class or something like that, because yes, they quite often are doing the exercise and they're managing
My
to kind of.
Pilates teacher is like, when we do the really hard bits and she's got legs above her head and she's going, and breathe in, breathe out.
Yeah.
And 10 more. And I'm like, how are you doing it?
Rachel last night, I love it. So, I mean, we're going way off tangent from running, but everyone should just practice more yoga. And last night she was in a pose. So she's got forearms down, her legs are in the air, her feet have come over and they're basically touching the back of her head. And she's talking you through and demonstrating all the positions that make this harder. And she's talking the whole class through it. And then she eventually says, but this is what peak pose looks like. And she must have been upside down for about 90 seconds, talking the whole class through it.
Oh, my goodness, mate.
And I'm watching her. And again, it all revisits back to this, what is impressive, what is impressive in running, what is impressive in yoga. And I'm watching her like totally madly in love with this person, but yet removed from that, there was just this utmost respect of like, you're a teacher first and foremost. And, huge respect for like, anyone who's teaching anything, and yoga for me is the life goal. Running is this weird byproduct.
Right, we better dip in. We had a few more questions. We're going to have to dip into some clock's ticking. Dip into some Patreon questions. Whether we get through all these. If we don't get through all of these, we'll have to fire off some emails.
Yeah, see how we go.
Yeah.
Okay, Neil Robinson asks, first of all, he's got 3 questions actually. Is there any significance to the mustache? What is your favorite shoe for the fells? And do you find yourself a better climbing or descending?
The mustache, I mean, that's purely for storing food. That's all it's there. There is no greater feeling than doing a double nighter, licking your mustache, and there's still like a bit of peanut butter in there.
Oh my God.
People think that's disgusting, but there's no greater joy.
When people tell you what do you really not like in life? Dried up Weetabix on a table and food, hair, food.
You should have dried up Weetabix in your mustache. Then that. Yeah, that's my mustache. Yeah, there is no. Maybe it's a homage to Freddie Mercury, who I love, but no, it's mostly food storage. Favorite shoe on the fell. This is a really good one, and I'll slightly plug Scott now, but for every reason why a brand should be plugged. I wear a pair of Scott Supertrack Ultras, and I have one pair of them. And the most common question I get asked is, how many pairs of those shoes do you have? Now, I've only been with Scott for all of 5 minutes, but I've worn their shoes for many years. I'm a huge believer that buy quality once and it is worth it. And the reason I think I get asked how many pairs of this particular shoe I have is because of the things I've done in it.
Yeah.
And I have one pair of Scott Supertrack Ultra 2s. And I don't need another pair. And I've raced Manx marathons in them. I've done entire Bob Grahams in them. Glencoe Skylines, Cheviot Goat. The list, and I've probably put the best part of like 700, 800 hard racing miles, let alone training miles, through this shoe. And I think brands are often tarnished because they're constantly bringing out the latest development and, actually, this is better than that, even though we said that was better than that. And whereas what I've always respected with Scott on the trail side of things is at the National Running Show, that was their best-selling shoe there this year, and it's 7 years old.
Yeah, it's been around a while.
And they haven't changed it, have they?
No,
I love that shoe too.
Yeah, not changed it. So is it the best shoe for absolutely everything on the fell? No. Is there the best shoe for absolutely everything on the fell? No. Can I tell you to spend money safely on that shoe? Absolutely, because it will get you through hell and back, and take it from me, it has. When you follow in fence lines on the Cheviot Goat for 5-6 miles, it's quite comforting to know you've got this slipper on your foot which you trust with the utmost. And am I a better descender or climber? I'm a better climber. I'm a hopeless descender. So
bet you're not.
Yeah, I'd like to see your splits.
Well, relative to my climbing, I'm always up at the front at the top, and then I'm really happy backing off. And I think this comes all back to why one runs and why I run and why I race the fells. you know, like I said, fells for me is VO2 max. You know, I'm there to end myself. I'm not saying there's not skill in descending. There's a lot of skill in descending, but I want to run forever. You know, I want to run when I'm 60. I want to run when I'm 70. I want to run when I'm 80. But my father never ran past the age of 40, and he would descend like a demon. And, you know, I always say knees over screes. I take a lot of pride of getting to the top first. And I normally get a bit of a telling off from my dad if I then fly down the same fell. So like something like Borrowdale Fell Race, when I get to the top of Dale Head, it's about 3 miles to the finish, and my race is over at the top of Dale Head, and I'll just coast it in. You know, the last year I lost 5 places, and the last 3 miles I didn't care. For me, it's all about climbing, because that's what I'm there to do. I'm there to build a VO2 max so that I can be quicker over 100 miles.
Yeah.
You know, I don't take great pride in terrifying myself running down the face of Great Gable.
No.
No. I've done it before, and it's just not worth it.
I feel the same about skiing when I ski around, and I'm like, I can ski really fast, but I take more pride of skiing in control and well and getting to the bottom alive than some of the people that ski past me. And I think if you had to stop suddenly, or something came in your path, or you hit a bit of ice, you would be, it will be all over. I'm gonna live to tell another tale. Jonathan Zink, you've actually answered quite a few of his questions that he wanted to know, but one of them, one little bit does jump out. If you could race anywhere, what would it be, and where would it be? I guess he's asking, where would it be and why? You got a ticket, you can go anywhere. Money's not an option.
Golden ticket, maybe.
I was going to say, this will sound super obvious. For me, Western States 100, but for all of the reasons which probably most people wouldn't want to do it. I've done the UTMB thing. I'm not against it. I'm falling more and more out of love with the big mountain racing scene. I'm a runner and I want to run. You know, I'm over walking. There is something about, it's the reason I'm going to canyons. It's the reason I want the Western States. There's something about having the best runners in the world on the side of the street with sponges on their heads, which for me is pure, and that is racing at the highest level. UTMB and equivalents, it's becoming a bit more like an F1 race. Everyone's got their own areas. It's very, very well put together. It's very quaint, and it's phenomenal, the level of athletes that are there. But I'm a lad from the north who just wants to run. I came from nothing, and I'm getting a bit of something out of it. You know, for me, I want to run 100 kilometers in 6.5, 7 hours. You know, I want to run 100 miles in 13, 12 hours. That can only be achieved, in my opinion, at the courses which allow it. And when it's as raw as it looks at Western States or Canyons or Black Canyons, which was last weekend, just the American race scene to me, and it's sort of anti everything else American, is still so untouched and it's so raw. And probably Western States would be a pinnacle, but then is the grass always greener argument. Don't meet your heroes. Yeah. But I love the whole concept of go hard or go home, and that's where I see myself going is over there more often to run my little heart out.
I like it because they've got laws, haven't they, in their constitution about how many people on the trails. So
they're not going to sell out.
It can't become a UTMB.
No. Thank God.
Gary,
Chris,
should we just? I think we have to. Otherwise, we could do another like 40 minutes. Do you want to just?
I'll ask Chris's, then that'll be that. Okay. That's all right. Yeah. Chris has asked motivation for a double Bob Graham. And how did you? I'm interested because I've luckily enough to succeed the 24 hours once. The thought of going again. Yeah, my quads as I was coming off Robinson, I didn't want to do it. I wasn't ready to go again. How did you feel in yourself? Yeah, as you came to the Mute Hall and about to set off for the second time.
You don't even think about it. Honestly, that almost sounds arrogant, but in my head, the double Bob is 2 laps. And if you can view a Bob Graham as a single lap, then there are so many amazing pictures of me getting into the Moot Hall after the first lap, and yet in my head I can't remember any of that. I'm so focused on climbing back out that it's a whole thing's a blur. I can sort of hear it, and I can hear the clapping, and I can see the cameras and the people, but I can't remember it. And I don't know. I'm so yeah, it's a blur, that whole section. So I just turn around. I've got nothing that could be very helpful. I think it's just this idea of what's your intention, and sadly you have to touch the moot hall to then touch it again. So
True. And why twice? Yeah, why the double bob?
I like the idea of running 2 complete loops, and I love how it all came about. You know, I love the fact like Boyd Miller finished it. It took him 50 odd hours. I like the fact he smoked cigarettes the whole second lap. I like the fact Roger Baumeister came and did it and completed it in under the 48 hours. I love the fact that Nicky Spinks held the record, my ultimate hero. And I've done many bobs myself, solo, anti-clockwise, clockwise, double attempts. You know, every time I run a bob, I've crewed so many now. Every time I run a bob, I learn something new and I never get bored of it. And the thought of running it twice is like the complete romantic in me, which is to run it clockwise and anti-clockwise in a single go is the ultimate respect for what is a fantastic round. It's perfect for me, the bob. It is the pinnacle of British, definitely of English running for me, because it's such a lovely set of sequenced fells. So it's just a pure romantic in me, and it's one of the few things I'm utterly romantic about is the bob.
Love it. Perfect. Well, that's it. Apologies, for the rest of the patrons, but time is on been going an hour nearly, so we just can't read them all out today, unfortunately.
Well, I'm sorry about that, but I'm always happy to answer anyone's questions, because I asked a lot of questions when I started, and I'm still asking a lot of questions now.
Slip into Ellis's DMs then.
Slide into my DMs. Yeah.
Right, let's finish with the best questions. There's always time for the quick 5, Gary.
Okay, yes, right. It's pancake day today. What's your favourite pancake topping?
Just ice cream with everything.
Yeah.
Just straight up ice cream.
Easy.
You can come round for tea. My kids and you can
I'm a cheap
eat that whole pot.
Well. I'm not even fussy about what brand it is, as long as it's cold.
And do you give anything or do something for Lent?
No, I'm teetotal, and I've been doing that for many years now. That's an ongoing thing. So that's my Lent all year round. I don't struggle with it, but it's just a bit of a cop-out.
I always think that. So I don't have like a crazy lifestyle. So sometimes Lent is like, well, what's the point of giving up alcohol when I probably drink once a fortnight or something? It's like...
when you're as boring as me, if I gave anything up, I'd be doing nothing.
I love it. Well, this is why I think sometimes people put a spin on it, don't they, and do something for Lent, something positive.
Yeah, I'd have to take something up.
Yeah. Favorite day of the week?
Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't know. This goes back to why I love like my job and stuff. I'm really excited to come to work. So Saturday's a great day because I get to leave work, but then I'm really looking forward to coming back. I don't know. I don't have faith. I'm just don't care about anything like that. Every day.
All right. Oh. Would you prefer to be able to speak every language in the world, or to be able to communicate with animals?
To communicate with animals. When you're from the north, you just get to point at stuff and people will quickly understand. So, no, to communicate with animals would be superb.
Yeah, we both said that, didn't we, Gary?
Yeah,
Talk to our dogs.
Chat with Rexy. Cakes or pies?
Pies.
Yes.
Oh, straight in there. I sat next to somebody who said they never ate pies.
What?
I never ate a pie. I was like, what? Do you not have pie night? Where's the joy? That when that fork goes into that crusty pastry, and then the knife, and then the sauce comes out. I'm like, the joy of a pie. The joy of a pie.
Yeah. Pies every time.
I'm going to go back to your hamstrings now.
Yeah.
Can you touch your toes without bending your knees?
Of course I can.
Go on.
That was like a prerequisite of getting in my relationship. Right.
No, I can't. Not today.
I'm going to try to.
I don't know if you're going to be able to see my feet. You just have to trust me.
Yeah. Oh, straight down.
Oh, straight down.
That was flat palms.
Oh, have you got palms? Did you get palms? I've got tips.
Honestly, Rachel wouldn't be with me if I couldn't do that.
Yeah, kids, come on. We've all got to do our yoga now. I couldn't touch. Come on,
My
could
kids
you?
can't. My little girl can, but the two boys who are a bit older, too much skiing, and their hamstrings have.
Well, I don't think Elliot Kipchoge can touch his toes too. I'm sure I've heard that somewhere. Whoever has good enough for Elliot. Okay, Ellis, I'll give you a bit of a heads up with this one. But when we promote our show, we'll have some music to it on Instagram, our Instagram story. What would be your song of choice?
I am a massive Northern Soul fan. I just think it's beautiful. But I'm also a massive funky funk man. And I love anything that Boney M have ever touched. So I'd probably go with Ma Baker by Boney M because that intro has never been beaten.
Okay. If Instagram will allow it.
Oh, they'll allow it.
I've got a few choices just in case.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, thanks for your time today, Ellis. It's been a blast.
Ellis, thank
I
you
really
so
enjoyed
much.
it. Oh, it's been
love
so
talking
nice.
to you. So love talking to you. And as you're talking, I'm like, oh, people listening to this are so lucky. Gems of wisdom, the lovely northern tone. And you've inspired me. I keep thinking I've got to get back to the old yoga lattes.
Yeah.
Got to do it.
That'd be our Lent. We touch our toes for Lent.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good idea. I'm going to yoga lattes every day in Lent for Ellis and Rachel. She's going to be impressed.
Yeah.
But even that's hard.
Okay.
Sweet.
Well, no,
Thanks,
honestly,
Ellis.
I really appreciate your time, guys. Keep doing what you're doing because more people need to be talking because I'm sick of people not talking and just battling it by themselves. It's just not worth it.
That's good to
Be
start.
true. Thanks.
Yeah, be
Thank
true.
you,
Take care, guys. Have fun.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
What a nice guy, and loads of information to share. With the Varga hats, it's really, I think they've done a great job. I don't know what the psychology is, but the community seem to really like sharing pictures of themselves in the Varga products, which is a brilliant place to be as a business, as a brand. But yeah, it was really great to hear from Ellis. Thanks for giving up your time today.
Would you say you're addicted to Strava, Gary? Do you love Strava?
That's a good
How much
question.
do you look at yourself? Do you look at others?
Before podcast, I would be BP. Yeah, I was a terrible Strava follower. It just synced with Garmin. I didn't name anything apart from maybe if it was a race. But I'm more mindful now, say with the podcast, and people are kind of connecting with me more than ever. I'll pay a bit more attention to Strava, but I'm still pretty rubbish on it, to be honest. Apologies for anybody who follows me expecting like lots of interaction because I don't know why. I just don't engage with.
Is it a platform where you need to interact, or can you just put your stuff on there and leave it there?
Hey, it's your Strava. You can do it whatever you want.
Yeah.
But it is a social media of running, I suppose. I get all the information I need on Garmin. There's no real need to share it on Strava. I got all the dates, everything I need as far as the splits and the heart rate. So yeah, I suppose if it's on Strava, then
why do we feel we need to share it? I don't understand. It's like because honestly, to be honest, I don't really look at. I put my run on it, and then I don't really look at it again.
Yeah.
I use it to look at clients' runs. And I love it. The reason I love it is I love it for new routes, seeing what people are doing, and I like seeing what my friends are doing too.
I've looked at stuff like so. All County Top's a good example. So I knew people like say Ricky Lightfoot had done it, and I'm pretty sure he would know how to get off Scarfell Pike quite accurately. So I check out things like that. And Killian, when Killian did his Bob Graham, curious what lines.
Did you compare?
Yeah, that was split.
I like comparing myself year on year and the same segment, and I look back and I'm like, when did I run that so fast? Oh, the watch must have been off. I never run that fast, or I'm not that slow now. I do like that.
Strava? Are you a paid up member?
Oh, I don't know. Yes, I think I am. I've got the blue.
You need to check because they've had an increase. You might be getting
Jeez, I do look at it because I use it when I am training. I do use the fitness, the like progress, because I do so many sports all together as well. It's really super simple to look at your hours and your volume and do that. It's the simplest app, taking away all the science if you're just focusing on hours training, I find.
I like the gap feature for the paid members on Strava.
Love the gap feature. Makes me feel a lot better.
I saw on, it's not on my Garmin device, but I did see on some of the Garmin device that they've got that built into their watch. You have to set it up, I think. I'm not really, I just saw it. I was reading about some Garmin products recently. And so one of their products will have Gap on the watch as opposed to paying the money to Strava to get that kind of information. So interesting.
Anyway, we've digressed heavily. It's only because you had Strava in capital letters and you'd started to make up a jingle. Strava, Strava.
I can't stop myself. Anyway, so Beverly, look at this. My goodness me. Beverly M.
Beverly M, who are you? What the...
Well, again, I tried to do a bit of Strava stalking and she's got a profile locked down, so I couldn't see any more.
Oh, come on. If you listen to the podcast and you're a member of the group, access all areas.
Yeah. But 117 miles, 32 hours and 15 minutes of exercise, and 28,467 feet of elevation. That I wonder if it's an event, because that is mind-blowing.
I'm just going to, when I'm back, I'm just going to spend 1 week just trying to top all 3 leaderboards. That's going to be my training plan. I did think about doing the accumulator. I was like, should I do an accumulator to like get back into, then I was like, but I only really want to do 1 week of it, when you have to do 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 mile.
That's dangerous. Well, it's fine. Yeah, the first week or two, you can cope with that. It's when it's 22, 23. Oh, my goodness me. But yeah, you put yourself up there to be competitive on this Strava leaderboard, and then you'll have a week like this with Beverly, and it will
be ruined again then for 2 months.
But imagine if you, I don't know, Christ, you did 116 miles. That's a massive effort, but you're only second on.
You'd have to keep a daily log. Oh my gosh, this could be a feature.
You know what I did once? There was a little... I think it was maybe, I'm not too sure which group it was, but I was part of some group and it was a mileage challenge. And I synced my Garmin at like 10 to 12 at night. So I knew the distance, I knew what I'd done, and I knew who was in first place at that time. And I knew if I'd have posted my run when I did it, they would have went out and did another run to beat me. So I put mine up at like 11:50 or something like that. So it couldn't be beaten. And I'm like, I was about 47 at the time. What a child. You're looking at me in disgust.
I don't think we need to comment on that, do we? Should we move on? We've got a message from Victoria Magnus, a funny story. I've got another funny story to match this one as well that happened this morning. Okay, here we go. It's a dog one. Love a dog one. Last week, she went for a run with her black Labrador, who she said she's going to remain nameless. Great running buddy, especially off the lead. She mostly just carries her ball and trots along close to me. She's not particularly interested in other people or dogs. Oh gosh, I wish that my dogs were like that. She never goes far, though. She loves running with me. Near the end of the run, we're on a pretty wide path approaching 3 women who are walking ahead of us. Oh, this is always my anxious time when I'm like, oh no, Lindy, come back. We'd actually already seen them earlier when we're going in the opposite direction. As we approached, she's put the dog's name, I won't say it, quite loudly. She called the dog so they could hear me and know I was there. The one on the left looked around, saw me, carried on talking to her friend, and looked like they were aware of me. There was a gap between the two on the right, so I was heading to the right of the path to go round them. The dog headed for the gap between them, and I thought, well, they know I'm here, so she's going to pass between them. Won't give them a shock. She didn't call the dog away. Except she didn't go between them. Instead, she trotted up to the woman, gently planted her wet nose exactly in the gap between the woman's bum cheeks and the top of her leg. I can't imagine where that is. She didn't do a sniff, sniff, sniff or jump up or anything. Just a simple wet snozzle into the bottom. The woman, who evidently had been completely oblivious, jumped literally in a manner that comedy writers can only dream of. I was totally and utterly mortified, and all I could do was apologize profusely and run on and hope to never see them again. Oh, this is giving her bottom kisses. It must have given her such a shock.
I got a
Oh, I
wet
love
noise
it.
on the groin on Saturday, I think it was. A dog.
Well,
It looked like I weighed myself.
I tell you what, there was, as I was running down the hill this morning, there was a skier skiing up and he'd stopped to do a wee right on the trail.
Oh,
And
what?
I ran round the corner and literally, I'm sorry, everybody, his willy was right out. And I was like, oh my gosh, my eyes. I've not seen a willy. I was like, oh, I didn't know where to look. And he was right there. So then I just stared at it. Anyway,
Transfixed.
I was transfixed. I was like, look away, look away. It was in his hand. And then Lindy just went up and did exactly the same. Definitely put her nose.
Love it.
I didn't know what to do. So I just like...
Did he apologise for exposing himself?
Well, he just stood there and I was like, oh my gosh, I can see it. It's there. And then Lindy went away. I was like, oh my God, I'm going red just reliving that story. Anyway, then I ran down and I was like, oh, that's just it's 8:30 in the morning. I do not need, I've already seen enough willies this morning. And then I was like, well, why you're on a corner? Why do you ever, if you need to do a wild wee, you go where you can see people. So if someone suddenly appears, you can hike your pants up or put your stuff away. He went on a corner. So I came anyway. We've all been there. Don't worry. We all like a bum schmoozles. Thanks for sending in the story. Love it.
Adam Bridges, I was chatting with Adam actually at the weekend, he's a friend of mine, and more body parts, human body parts exposed on this Tales from the Trails. But yeah, Adam was running through a housing estate during the recent Pendle Way in a Day race, and he looked up and saw a naked woman tweaking her nipples. What the hell? Is it?
Like,
It was,
just ding ding.
yeah. Basically, out in the window, just
Like as a sort of like, here we are. Who does that?
I don't know.
Well,
The kids
on the
playing in
Pendle
the
Way,
street.
that
Yeah,
race
yeah,
is gonna be sold out. We had a record sold out. I don't know why.
That's like turn right at the woman tweaking her nipples in the window on the race description. But yeah, kids playing in the street, and I'm pretty sure it was it's only a 45-mile race, so it definitely wasn't a hallucination. But oh my goodness me, I've never seen anything.
Oh, Gary, a bit disappointed. Like Adam has all the fun.
I saw a burning sock. That still stays with me forever. My little burning sock I saw on the trail. And yeah, same Adam on that race. He bumped into a listener of the show, a lady called Emma Diamond. And she's a fan of the podcast, and she was running with Adam, and she didn't realize Adam knew me. And she's like, "Oh, do you listen to Tales from the? Do you listen to the Tea and Trail podcast?" And I was like, "Oh, well, actually, Gary's a friend of mine,
his personal friend. I got his number."
So, oopsie daisy. So, yeah, thought I'd give Emma a shout out. Thanks for listening to the show, Emma.
How did they get onto the subject of the podcast? Like,
you know, when you kind of just become trail
from
buddies.
The tweaking nipples, did she then go,
Well, I don't know the continuity of the whole story. But yeah, you share a mile or two with people, don't you, when you're doing these long races? And I think they were just making small talk, and then our podcast came up. And I just think that's a lovely coincidence that of all the people she could have said that to was a friend of mine. And yeah, you let me know. So yeah, hi Emma. Thanks for listening to the podcast.
Last but not least, spine vet and blog poet extraordinaire. You might remember Viva Lasagna. Was it you or me that read that? I think it was you, Gary.
Oh, it's unforgettable, me.
Oh, today you... Unforgettable. Gary read it. Well, Mark Smith is now. Oh no, Gary's in the V50 category.
Yeah,
is that your
got
category?
my eye on you, Mark.
Watch out.
Keep your friends close and your enemies close.
Let us know your race schedule. Gary needs your race schedule ASAP. Anyway, happy birthday from all at Tea and Trails.
Yeah, happy birthday, Mark. Competition time again. Yeah, Active Route have teamed up with us, and they're going to offer two £50 vouchers for two lucky winners picked at random. All you have to do is be a member of our Facebook group and their Facebook group or page. I'm not really too sure if it's a page. Sometimes businesses have pages, don't they?
We just like it. But we will be checking before we put your name in the hat.
Oh, yes.
Official checks will be in process.
And there is a link on our Facebook group All you have to do is comment in that post, like the post, obviously be a member of both groups, and comment what Active Root product you will buy or you would like to try. We will pick two winners at random on the 28th of February and then announce them on that following show. Good luck.
You can't enter, by the way, Gary. I see you've commented in the hope that maybe I'll slip your name into the hat.
I said, Lisa, my wife's not even ended. I'm like, Lisa, come on.
I get all the kids.
Yeah.
Dad, come on, Dad, get in there, enter. I chose the ginger. Oh, that sounds delicious with my breakfast. Mum and Dad will be there again. High on Active Root.
Cane sugar. Class.
Hey, Gary, we've not done this for a few weeks.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's do some reviews.
Cool. Love some reviews.
Cool. You've been hanging out with your kids so much. I love it.
They don't see that.
Cool. I'm going to choose George of the Trails. George he's straight to the point. There's no messing around with George. It's just put so great. I presume he means the podcast there. So great. It's so lovely to hear presenters as enthusiastic about trail running as Eddie and Gary, funny, listenable and entertaining whilst informative. Well, if you've been listening for the last few weeks, George, of the trails, I'm sorry I've been a little negative about trail running and running in general. But hopefully things are on the up now and I will continue to be positive. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the review, Gary.
Well, we can do a couple because Palsy56, again, straight to the point. Great listen. Superb that you are back. Thanks for that, Palsy. And then I'll do also Bunch of Arsenal. Great to have you back.
I was going to say. You bunch of oh gosh, this podcast, the tone has been so low throughout.
We've had everything. I've been penis nipples. But it's brilliant to have Gary and Eddie back to accompany me on those long runs. Top banter, great interviews and helpful advice. Keep up the awesome work.
Love it. Please head over there because we just love reading the reviews too. Head over, like, share, 5-star review, and do leave a comment because they make our day.
All right, Eddie, we're at nearly the end of the show. It's where we have a little.
I have done 2 cups of tea. 2 cups.
Oh my goodness, that's not right. Your one in your right hand there was quite a small cup.
Well, what I do, Gary, so we got the mug size of my head. That is my second mug, and the smaller one, it was just the thirst obliterator, because I just feel like, as well, saving the planet, I boil the kettle and I make 2 cups and I only need to boil it once.
Yeah.
And I've also had a whole thing nearly of, I've had a lot of liquid. I know. I think
couldn't have made it without a toilet stop.
Gary, you've been incredible this episode. I don't think we've had.
I don't know how, I've mentioned this quite a few times. Again, on Friday when I was out, my toilet stop ratio must have been at least 5 or 6 times more than anybody else. You
need to have a little checkup, maybe.
I've had one already. Said I'm fine. I had a surprise finger up the bum. Which,
Gary, no. 1, we don't need to share that, and 2, how can it be a surprise? You knew it was.
Well, yeah, you would have thought they would have prepped you for that. And I got, people should go and check themselves out if they've got anything they're a bit worried about. And so I had these tests. It was because I was weighing loads, and I think that one could be a type 1 diabetes. It could be a sign of that. I had the various tests, and then you get the call and see if you're okay or not. But I got the call to come in and see the doctor, and I was terrified. They wouldn't tell me. The nurse or the receptionist wouldn't say what was wrong. So I was thinking, oh my goodness me. And then the doctor basically, it was like he was teasing me before he told me well, before I got the rubber glove out, yeah. But he was teasing me. He didn't tell me for ages that, oh no, you're fine, everything's fine. But then eventually he said, but I would like to check up your bum if that's okay. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness me, I was fine with it, but he should have prepped me for that. I wasn't expecting that on that day. Anyway, yeah, moving on.
I'm glad you're fine, Gary. So many questions I want to ask related to that, but I cannot because this is a family show, PG.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Let's get back on track. Let's talk about running.
Got really itchy nipples now since we've been talking so much.
Well, if you got a window, Eddie, you give your residents a treat. Any trail racers going past. Anyway, yes.
Anyway,
Focus.
God, I'm so sorry. What's wrong? I think I've got that post half term. The kids have been around so much, and now I've gone silly.
Delirium.
I've gone silly, Gary. Right, this week. This week I'm going to, as I said, just try get the volume up a little bit. Just enjoy my running, moving, skiing. Skiing as much as I can before all the snow disappears. Bit of biking. I'm having a bit of problem with doing any sort of weights because of my arms. Like lifting anything, like planking, press ups, anything isn't great. So I just basically can only do stuff on my back. Don't need any comments. So got to do some Pilates, got to do some core. That's about the limit, I think, at the moment. Could do some bands as well. So a little bit of that. Keep heading upstairs at about 6 to my spa, pouring in my salts. That seems to be going well. I'm single parenting this week, so I think that's coming about the right time. Bryn has to travel a bit for his job, and he's put it off. But I feel ready. I can do that. So try and conserve the energy as well, so that I'm not going back all in with the training and then back all in with the kids as well. And I am thinking about my racing schedule. We kind of got next year lined up already. We'll talk about that more. But this year, what can I do, Gary? What can I do? I feel like I have the energy and the ability to do another big race, maybe around October time.
Okay.
So I can do all the little trail races around here in the summer, which are great. And I'll just go and run and die. Good podcast content. How, Eddie? But I need another big race. There is one. I do remember a few years ago, I did one in the Jura, an 80K, which I loved. So there's a 170K one of that, which is the end of September, which could be nice. But then I wonder if I want to do something like a little bit longer.
What about Lizzie Hawkins, the Monte Rosa? Is that the wrong time?
I know, it's that weekend when the kids go back to school. I could not do. I mean, I couldn't do that too. Not just the kids to Bryn. So kind of October is good because it gives me September as well to train after the summer holidays.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd put it out on the podcast. Anybody think of anything in October time that I could do? The Jura one is super easy because I can literally get a lift to the start, and I pretty much would just do it self-sufficient.
And does it have to be localish to you, or are you prepared to come to the UK?
I would come to the UK if we could fit it in with half term, and also, but I wouldn't want to come over for recce's or anything. So something relatively easy-ish to get to. Anyway, I could be open. Anybody think of anything? Anybody know anything around that time? I thought, let's put it out to the podcast. See what comes to light. So which is nice. Starting to think about things. And looking forward to this week when does everyone feel like this when their partner's away? Wonderful. Why is the house so much more tidy when the other adult is away? There's a lot less clearing up. There's a lot less cooking because I can just have cereal and I can be in bed by 9 o'clock and I can listen. So I quite often listen to podcasts as I'm going off to sleep, not ones I really like, sort of background noise ones that I listen to. But I have to put my earphones in when Bryn is there because he doesn't want to listen to them. So he very kindly says, I don't mind, but you don't want to listen to us. But he's not there, so I can have them on full volume, spread across the bed. Oh my gosh, I love it.
I go to the middle of the bed when I'm on my own.
Oh, and it's this cold patches, so if you get a bit hot, you can move over. Anyway, I love my husband dearly, and I will miss him. But also, there's also a whole lot of Netflix viewing. I'm so behind on my when you get to the bit of Netflix when it goes suggestions for you, I'm like, I've got so many to dig in.
Oh, we're watching the Brinksmat, the Gold. It's a BBC one. It's not Netflix.
Okay.
And it's really interesting, but haven't really done it yet. I sometimes don't like these villain dramas where they kind of make them up to be like Robin Hood or glorify these people when they're not actually quite horrible people. I don't feel like they've done that yet, but I had a super late night because I was like, just one more, Lisa.
That is dangerous. You've got to set one or two episodes max, then it gets dirty, Gary. What about you? Lots going on? Keep that line on Strava.
Yeah. Well, I might even increase it.
Oh,
with
don't
the-
get greedy now.
yeah.
No one likes a greedy Strava user.
I think I've got another lakes trip on Saturday, so that would be good. And I can't skive off work on a Friday again. So
I
that's-
wondered why you were so quiet on Friday. I was like, this is weird. He is so quiet.
Yeah. But then on the Sunday, the Northeast Marathon Club, they have their AGM meeting, and to basically encourage members to turn up, they also have a marathon on that same day too. And it's free. It's brilliant. And they put food on. It's a nice little buffet, and then we all have our little do all the admin for the AGM, so that's good. And what is awesome, you don't have to do the full marathon. It's just a social event. So if I feel super tired after lakes on Saturday, I'll do as much as I can on the Sunday, and then go and feed my face at the buffet. The buffet. So I'm looking forward to that. And that'll be 3 times I've been to South Shield. I've not been to South Shield for years. And then within 1 week, I would have been 3 times. So can't get enough of the place. 2020 again is going to be the workout of choice on Thursday.
Can I just say about that 2020 workout? It's a great one for rebuilding fitness. And you can do 5-5-5. And you can do also quite often, I create like 5-5-5, little bit of recovery, 5-5-5. It's a great way to work on your pacing as well. So I will definitely in the next few weeks be doing 5-5-5. That will be my session. I'm not as fit as you, Gary. I'm just not as good as you.
I don't feel that fit. I did a little glimpse of it on last Thursday, but yeah, I wouldn't like a race. I wouldn't like a race at the moment. But then the other workout will be 4 times 8 minutes, and that will be up a hill. The recovery will be extended because it's going to take me longer than 2 minutes to get down the hill again. We just don't have that luxury of a big, long climb. And then that is that as far as workouts are concerned. Hopefully get my 2 sessions in down the gym. And I am, Eddie, I'm putting a few more kgs on the bars now.
What have you gone off the 2? Have you moved on to the 5?
Yeah, I don't lift much. I don't know.
What's your squat? What can you squat now?
Oh, good. Well, it's if you put on, I think I have probably about, I think it's 35, but then the bar 2. So whatever that is, all in all.
It's normally about 20, 25 the bar, isn't it?
Yeah, about 20. Yeah, I think it's 24. I'm sure I Googled that. So yeah, whatever that is. And I do 3 sets of 8. And then what I do is a test every now and again. If I can push that last set to 10, that's when I know I'll put in a couple of extra kgs. And yeah, I started because everything was leg centric, all my exercises. So I thought, I need to do a bit of upper body stuff. So I'm doing my chest, shoulders, and back, and then pretty much everything else is. But I tried proper deadlifts.
Sorry, everyone, I've set them off now. Yeah, carry on.
I tried proper deadlifts, and yeah, there's an art to those. The technique more than the weight itself. And anyone who's trying it,
did you have the bar? Was it a hex bar or a normal?
Normal bar, but they've got like a little raised bit on the rack, so you don't have to go all the way down to the
I was going to say that. Yeah, start with it up higher and just start with no weight. I often get people to start with a kettlebell too.
Well, this is it. On one day, I do the single leg pivot deadlift where you have the kind of kettlebell. So my 2 sessions, one is more of kind of a free weighty, balancey lunges with dumbbells, and then the other session is more of the more machine.
Key to that deadlift is that flat back. As you go, is the flat back. Oh, it's a bit like a gorilla. I always think that stance.
Yeah.
Flat back, look up, brace the core, brace the shoulders. It's very different, but it's so good for that. The posterior chain as well, the butt.
Yeah, all down there, all like your hamstrings and the back.
Love it. I almost prefer a deadlift to a squat. I do love a squat.
Yeah. It's funny. Once the weight was up with the deadlift, it was fine. It was just getting that little.
Yeah, it's almost harder with
off the deck.
Yeah. So start with it raised, and then if they've got a hex bar, that does make it much easier, and it spreads the load across the spine as well. So a hex bar is one you get into. It's like a circle.
I've seen. Yeah.
They are actually better for you.
I'm pretty sure I've seen them, but I do like. I'm doing these cable. Put the cable around my ankle for the abductors.
I love those.
Not a lot of weight, so you know.
So hard, isn't it?
Yeah. If you're kind of vanity and want to be putting lots of weight on, then that is
just the balance on one leg.
Yeah, and it's luckily there's a mirror right in front of the machine, so you kind of balance yourself.
Also, Gary, you can stand there.
I always find the mirror. I wonder what people, because my goal in the gym is quite different to a lot of the people. They're building strength and muscle, while I just want to stop myself from being injured. So I wonder what the two workouts look like side by side on paper for me.
Yeah, too. Well, when I see other people, when I used to go to the gym, the men would be like, I'd have done a whole workout and they'd have done like 3 squats, basically.
Yeah.
Big weights, though. Big weights.
Yeah. I'd like a recommendation too, actually, non-running related, but all my podcasts are pretty much running related, apart from Adam Buxton. He's gone a bit of a sabbatical. I'm not too sure why, but he's not doing anything at the moment. So yeah, any non-running podcasts?
Well, I don't hardly listen to any running podcasts. I can't stand them. I think I've said that before. Nearly all mine are comedy, very lowbrow comedy. In fact, I can't even recommend them on the podcast.
Well, if your song of choice is Mark Owen, I don't think our podcast's going to be aligned. But yeah, some little tips.
Mark Owen, Westlife. I like Westlife too, not just Mark Owen.
Yeah,
Ellie Goulding, Taylor Swift.
No. Oh yeah, Taylor Swift. Yeah, Harry Styles.
Oh, Harry Styles. I like Harry Styles a bit too much. Eddie, get down. Put him away.
Yeah, any non-running podcast recommendations, that would be great too.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to the show. Sorry that it's been rather base, smutty humour this week, but there we go.
In the gutter.
Thanks to our partners. Thanks to our Patreons.
And that's it for another week. Another jam-packed show. I've loved it today, Eddie. Another one.
That's because we've just been silly all morning. You love the silliness.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. Or watching, depends if you're tuning in on YouTube. Quite a few people have been checking us out on YouTube.
Do you know why because they love that you cracking me up and me unable to control myself because you're
Well, I definitely got YouTube for this show then. Very giggly.
There is some nipple action.
Oh my goodness. Stay safe on the trails, run wise, run well, and don't overdo it. It's always better to be 5% under instead of 1% overcooked. Make sure you refuel with lots of tea and whatever beverage takes your fancy. We won't judge. My name is Gary Thwaites.
Oh, I'm Eddie Sutton.
And that was episode of 11 of Tea and Trails. What are you laughing for now?
It's the woman at the window. I can't get her out my head.
Oh, if you are the woman in the window, reach out. Imagine that.
YouTube. YouTube
could be a listener.
through the roof.
That will be Patreon only content. One night only. Right, that's it. We're off.
Close us down.
And that was episode 11 of Teen Trails. Peace out.